Tell this short story before we get into this about how my grandmother and granddaddy met. Granny's name was Virginia, and she came from Springfield, Missouri, is where she lived. She worked in a sewing factory. She made men's pants. So anyway, some of the other single girls I took, now this is 100 years ago, 1925. So some of the other single girls, they would put their name and address in the pants pocket. And so anyway, my granddaddy's brother, Everett Thomas, which Everett married, he was already married at the time, he married Frank and Clarence Rogers' older sister, Miss Catherine, which they lived where Bobby Lawson lives now. They owned that property there. But anyway, he bought the pair of pants and he got the address, so he gave it to my granddaddy Raymond because, of course, he wasn't married, so he started writing to her. And so he went out there to see her. I don't know which year it was, a year they rode for a year or two. And Pap always said she wanted to come back with him then. But anyway, I think they got married in Christmas time in 1928, and she did come back. And she put all her worldly possessions in a trunk, and we've still got the trunk. It was a new trunk. But she put all her stuff in that trunk, and she come to Taylorsville. And so anyway, she died in 1986. So they were together all those years. Now,
Can I ask you a question? How did her parents feel about this long distance romance that
well,
they didn't know him at all?
Well, her mom and dad were, her mother had remarried, but her real dad, they were divorced.
Okay.
But anyway, she lived there with her mother, but she was, on her own. Of course, she was a few years older than Pap, not much, but she was a little bit, so see, she was middle 20s anyway at the time. Back that many years ago, middle 20s, she was an old maid. But anyway, and that's how these pictures come about. He had a photographer take these pictures. There was 4 of them. The one wasn't interested. What they did is they stood up on the Bloomfield Hill. Of course, that road wasn't the same then as it is now, but anyway, stood up on that hill and took 3 pictures of Taylorsville. Now, the other picture was of the farm where his Pap's mother owned. It was up East River Road. It was a farm before you get to David Shelburne, where David lives now. It was Gibson's owned it for many years. They bought it after my great-grandmother died. And then my granddaddy bought the farm out there where I live now in 1938. And it had all the buildings was on it was the back barn and stripping room. And he built the house that I live in himself. And I've still got he did the rest of the building and helped other people, houses and stuff. And I never knew the old man having 2 hammers in his life. That's all he ever had. He had a smaller hammer and a bigger one. And I always used the bigger one up till I built several buildings. And that's the hammer I always used. And the old handsaw still hanging up in the porch he used to build a house with. But anyway, I'll go through these, of course, these pictures. You'd have to get up close to them to see them. These two pictures here overlap. And I wrote on here, as you can see, the Catholic church steeple and the Christian church steeple. You pick them out in the 2 pictures, and these pictures overlap. Okay, the old 2-story school up on the hill. Of course, it's in this picture here where the covered bridge is. Now that, I wrote here what the story I got with that. My daddy started the school there in 1936 in the old 2-story school. Now, during I don't know what year it was done, but the high school, which has been torn down and got rid of now, but that was one of those public work projects. And after they built the high school, then They tore the old two-story school down on top of the hill, and they built the present school that's up there now. But you can tell here in this picture how that hill went up into a pond. So I was told, D.R. Rice, anybody that's been around here all their life knew D.R. Rice because he had bulldozers back in the 30s. And he cut 7 feet off that hill, knocked it down level enough to build the school that's up there now. And I wrote all that down there. Now, these two pictures here, they overlap. And I said on here, okay, the third picture, I don't remember seeing but one other picture than this one, and that was Taylorsville had the tobacco warehouse. Taylorsville loose leaf tobacco warehouse, and this is a picture of the warehouse. Now, this little building here, I wrote on here, this little building right here was the old Spencer Magnet building, which is still there today. And so that gives you, now of course Pioneer Cemetery was up here. The railroad run right beside the tobacco warehouse. And then it was on the lower side, the tobacco warehouse was, and then on the upper side, Pioneer Cemetery.
Where's the cemetery?
Uh,
Point again where the cemetery is?
it's on up in here,
Oh, okay.
Pioneer Cemetery. And Daddy said, of course, he was born up on the river there. He lived in the mile of Taylorsville his entire life. He was born up there. Then when he was 8 years old, he moved out there where we're at now. And he lived there other than the last 2 months of his life. Had taken him to nursing home, and he died in the nursing home, so that's as far as he ever got away from Taylorsville. Anyway, he said he could remember, he could not remember the old warehouse. Now, it was torn down, I don't know, sometime, of course, generally any kid can't remember, myself included, you can't hardly remember anything before 5 years old. Unless it's something really outstanding, you just can't remember. But anyway, he said he could remember where the pillars to the old warehouse was, and the present day flood wall is sitting on those where those pillars, the far end of it, used to be. And some of these pictures, I usually go to Walgreens and get them to do these pictures, because if you get 100 made at a time, they'll make them for about 15 cents. And anyway, some of them turn out better than others, but you have to get the picture, and I've scotch taped all this on there. You can see the old railroad bridge in the background here going across Salt River. And I also had here written on, there's approximately 500 feet between this picture and here that's just left out space. But anyway, where the covered bridge is, see, that's the end of the street there beside, when you go into where the sheriff's office is today, that was the street that went into the covered bridge.
Oh.
That was Highway 55. Because see, and then the Civil War soldiers, when they was marching Prairieville, they went across that bridge.
So that's Main Cross, if Main Cross continued on across the river.
Went right on across to the covered bridge here. And the water plant, what's left of the old water plant, it was sitting down here. Now it's sitting in this corner. Now the pillar to that old bridge, if you go down West River Road, the pillar to the old bridge on the far side is still there today. And you can see bits and pieces if you go up Bloomfield Hill and look over there. There's culverts and stuff. That road was not straight back in the time of the covered bridge. It was just like a snake went up through there, and you can see a culvert or two that's still up there. But anyway, I wrote some other stuff here. Now, that farm up there where they took those pictures, the Black family, Miss Permelia Black was my 4th grade school teacher. She was an old maid. She never married. And I'm pretty sure she was born up there. That was her family's farm. And Miss Edna Tucker was an English teacher here. Everybody went to high school here at Miss Edna Tucker in English. And I think I know she was Black, and that was her family up there. I think she told me she was born up there. Of course, Miss Tucker would have been over 100 years old too.
Isn't it called Black Hill? I've heard it called Black Hill.
Well, the Blacks at one time owned a good bit of land in there. When you go down the West River Road, there's where Claude Owens has got the, well, he just works on stuff down there, and they got the boat dock down there. That's the old rendering plant down there where Claude Owens is at. But that come off of Black Farm, it come off of this farm here that we're talking about. And then on down the road where the Loves own now, part of that years ago was black property.
Okay.
And, let's see. Oh, another thing about, well, I'll get into that, another story here.
When did you say they were taken, Eddie?
What's
These
that?
pictures, when were they taken?
Sometime after 1925, that's when
Oh,
my
there it is, right up at the top.
because see, he had them taken